After the rain out tonight, the Royals have a big opportunity tomorrow to sweep a doubleheader. Let's talk about their chances next on Locked On Royals.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned into another edition of Locked On Royals on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. That's at JOHNYJ_15. And you can also catch us on wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe. For you first-time listeners, we bring you episodes Monday through Friday, with Friday being a mailbag segment where we answer as many questions as we can over the course of our 30-minute episodes. We also give you 60-second recaps at the end of every single game. Tonight, I was out at Kauffman Stadium. I was preparing to be in the clubhouse afterward and then come back here, do the episode, do the recap, get all that done. But the only reason I was out there was for a delay, apparently. Got there around 6 o'clock, found out shortly after they were in a delay, and that delay turned into a postponement, which leads us into the first segment, which will be about the doubleheader. Then in segment number 2, we'll talk about Drew Waters and if we buy this recent stretch that he's been on. And then with Nick Kurtz making his debut tonight for the Athletics, I wanted to do a little bit of a comparison with his situation and Jac Caglianone, and that'll come up in segment number 3. But before we get started, want to let you know about the title sponsor today in Supply House. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off on your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Well, tomorrow we're going to be able to recap 2 games that happened, and I hate to put, so much into a doubleheader in April, especially one against a 4-win baseball team. But with tonight's game being rained out, you're having to sit around in the colder temperatures. Now, it started out fine today. I want to say it was in the high 60s, low 70s. By the time I left Kauffman Stadium tonight, which is the reason I'm bringing this episode still pretty late, I mean, it was cold, it was rainy. You think about the players getting ready to go. They're warming up, they're stretching, and then they sit around for the majority of 2 hours. There's no rain at the ballpark. That is what puzzled me a little bit. I've seen so many times that when you've got a delay, like 30 minutes before first pitch, it's a small delay. You'll see it get pushed back 30 minutes. They'll cover the field. It'll rain for a little bit. Then they'll pull it off. You get started about 30, 40 minutes later on. Now, I will say this. I was not a fan in attendance. I was there for media purposes. And the reason I want to point that out is I had the luxury of being inside, being able to have a seat there, where the people that were out, in the concourse, in their seats, I felt terrible for them. They're hanging around. There wasn't much of an update. And then at 8:45, I want to say, they get word that there is a postponement. So the way it all went down, I can't expect perfection from everybody. But that was a little bit confusing to me to see this window they had, which was about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And there was no rain. There was lightning at about the hour 15 mark. I don't know if they would have gotten 5 innings in an hour 15, but to wait until then to postpone it, that to me felt a little bit odd. I know there were some people sounding off on Twitter, which is where I do the majority of my posting, and I don't blame you. If you were out there at Kauffman Stadium tonight, you probably left pretty frustrated, getting the update 30 minutes before first pitch and then no other update until we found out the game was postponed. We're not going to sit through the first segment here and give you 10 minutes on whether they should have postponed it or whether they should have played at 6:40 and just tried to get 5 innings in. The reality is they'll have a doubleheader tomorrow. Cole Reagans is going to throw game 1, and the game that was banged tonight, it'll be moved to tomorrow evening. For the Royals, not much of a change. Yes, they do have to play 2 games in one day, but it's not a getaway day for them. They will get the Astros coming to them for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Hopefully better weather. this is going to be about what tomorrow could be for this ball club. And it would have been maybe similar if they won tonight and took it into tomorrow and they win with Cole Reagans on the bump. They should be heavy favorites in the first game tomorrow. I'd imagine Colorado is going to stick with Chase Dollander, who was supposed to start, against Cole Reagans for this Thursday game. And then Lorenzen and German Marquez will throw in the evening slate. But since they're going to be staying in Kansas City, there's not too much to be frustrated about other than we wanted to see them play baseball tonight. That's what I was, hoping for tonight, that, hey, if I'm going to sit through a 2.5-hour rain delay or a 2-hour rain delay, at least I'll be able to see them. And I don't mind doing this podcast at 1:30 in the morning or 2 in the morning. Going to have to do it anyway when they go on their West Coast road trip, and we'll be bringing you very late episodes. I don't mind staying up late. But tomorrow could be that momentum booster where you beat a team twice in one day. There might not be a better feeling in baseball than sweeping a doubleheader, other than winning the World Series, of course. When you're talking about regular season games, and especially ones in April, you find a way to sweep a doubleheader. I don't care your opponent. You feel pretty damn good about it. I mean, if Cleveland and Detroit loses tomorrow and you win both of these games, you feel really good about your 12-14 record, considering you were 8-14 back on Sunday morning, that is, Easter Sunday. And to win on Sunday in Detroit, win game one against Colorado, and sweep a doubleheader, that gives you some momentum going to face an Astros team that is over 500, playing some good baseball, but they're coming to your house. And that could be maybe the series that gets you a little bit back on track. This Colorado series, I never viewed it as a series to get the Royals back on track. It was to build confidence, for lack of a better term, because sweeping the Colorado Rockies should not change your perception about how good they really are. Like, if the Royals are going to be a playoff team, it's a must that you have to, at bare minimum, take the series, but you should be able to sweep this bunch with who you got throwing tomorrow. If you win game one with Cole Reagans and he's able to go 7 innings, you got a rested bullpen. Maybe the offense can get going a little bit. And there you go. That's another part to this, why I believe tomorrow has some meaning behind it. You've got 18 innings, right, to get this offense going. And one day you've got 18 innings. And if you really start to pile up the runs in game one, I'm not going to go out there and make any predictions, but if you do, and you get that bullpen working by the third or the fourth inning, you think what Colorado has in front of them for game two. I mean, you're asking German Marquez to eat up more of the innings. And if they're on German Marquez, now the Royals could really be in a good spot to have 2 full games to get the offense going, which I believe would be absolutely important going into a series against Houston, when you're going to see Hunter Brown, who has been phenomenal this year, already 5 quality starts. You're going to see Framber Valdez on Saturday, I want to say it is. On Friday, I can't quite remember who's going to be throwing for the Astros, but you see 2 guys that are very talented. I mean, we all know Hunter Brown had his blow-up back in April in Kansas City when he gave up 9 in the first inning, but then when the Royals saw him in Houston, he was phenomenal. Framber Valdez, the Royals have seen him a lot over the last 5 years or so. That's getting ahead of the point here, though. Tomorrow, there is going to be a long period of time where this Royals team can get something going and be able to celebrate tomorrow night with 2 wins in one day, and to be 12-14 and know that that record looks a hell of a lot better than the 8-14 they were staring at on Easter Sunday. So to me, it is a April doubleheader. It's against a team you're not going to see again until next year. It's a very bad baseball team, and I hate to speak illy of Colorado when there's nobody to defend against that statement, but you just bring up the stats, you bring up the numbers, and they're not a good baseball team. The Royals aren't playing offensively much better than Colorado, but they've got a pitching staff that is performing much better than Colorado. And tomorrow, with your ace on the bump and Michael Lorenzen, who has pitched well at home this year, I like their chances to take not just one, but both of these games. And 18 innings, as I said. I mean, if you're feeling good about it, maybe just 16 innings because they won't bat in the bottom of the ninth. So let's say 16 innings to get something going, to get some momentum, get some guys over 200, which sounds silly to say out loud, but you got to start somewhere. And I feel that tomorrow with an extended look like this, where you're not just, oh, I went 0 for 4 today, I got to wait till tomorrow. You know, you get rest tonight. I know they went out there and warmed up and were stretching, but they get a rest tonight, which should allow them to feel good about going into the games tomorrow. You got your ace going in game 1, take care of business there, and then keep that momentum going into game 2, and only be 2 games under 500 and welcoming a good Houston Astros team over the weekend. All right, we're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, am I buying into this version of Drew Waters, or do I still need to see a little bit more? I'll tell you my thoughts next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. Want to give a shout out to the title sponsor today in Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades at Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person every time. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Well, Drew Waters was going to be in the lineup tonight before the game got delayed and then eventually banged. And it was a chance to build off what he did, not only in Monday's game, but on Sunday's game. He all of a sudden has become this regular in the Royals lineup, something that I didn't envision when he got called up from Omaha. The numbers in Omaha, they were good. And last year, it was the same song and dance. Good numbers in AAA, couldn't translate it to the big leagues, just swung and missed too much. And in those first couple series, beginning in Cleveland on that road trip, like you saw why the swing and miss was a problem. You have to go back even further than that. It was the finale against Minnesota. I want to say it was Minnesota in that series finale to wrap up the previous homestand. Then it went into Cleveland. So Drew Waters has now been up for a handful of series, about 4 or 5, and he has caught in fire of late. He has caught fire over the last 3 to 4 games. And that is important to note here. I mean, we have to acknowledge that he is playing well. And with the way the offense has looked, you have to point to it. You have to highlight it. And you don't have to run with it and say this is who he's going to be the rest of the season. It just so happens that when somebody plays well, it's so noticeable. It's so noticeable in the lineup. Like when guys are struggling, right now everybody seems like they're struggling outside of 3 hitters, which is Bobby Witt Jr., Maikel Garcia, and now Drew Waters. Everybody else is going through a bit of a rut. Jonathan India is hitting under 200. Vinny Pasquantino is hitting under 200. Salvador Perez is hitting under 200. Michael Massey's hitting under 200. Hunter Renfroe is. Kyle Isbell is barely above 200. Like Mark Canha is hitting over 300, 340 in fact. He doesn't have many at-bats so far in the year. Cavan Biggio, he was going to be in the lineup tonight. He's hitting 200. So when you have that many guys struggling, it's easy for guys struggling to blend in with each other. But when you play well, you're going to stand out more than the rest. It's also a dangerous thing for the fan base because when the offense is performing like this, you are looking for anything to hang on to. It's like finding water in a dry desert where Bobby Witt Jr., he's the relief. Maikel Garcia hitting well, that's a relief. And to see an outfielder, when we can call Maikel Garcia a part-time outfielder, but a true outfielder, hit the way Drew Waters has in the last few games, it is refreshing to see. And people should be happy for what Drew Waters is doing in these last couple of games, because anytime somebody earns a spot onto the roster and they play well enough to keep it, we should be happy about that. And if you are a Royals fan, even if you're a partial fan or you're a diehard fan, we've all got the players that you root for that are the fan favorites, and you have the guys that you find yourself rooting against because you want to see somebody else in that spot. And we definitely saw when Drew Waters was called up, it was this, measurement between Waters and MJ Melendez. Why should Melendez stay? Why should Waters stay? And that brought out, fans rooting against one or the other. Well, rooting against MJ to fail so that you wouldn't have to see him on the roster anymore, or rooting for Waters to be done so you wouldn't need to hear the complaints of, why is Waters not up here and playing in front of Isbell or Renfroe or MJ? I've seen both sides to it. But if you just are rooting for the team to do well, Drew Waters playing well helps that, because him performing like this is going to result in more victories. And is Drew Waters the answer in the outfield? I don't know. I have seen crazier things happen where a 4A guy for the most of his career finally catches on and becomes the guy that we all thought he could be. And then you've got a fine and serviceable right fielder. That's, not too unrealistic to think about. Like, if Drew Waters sticks around and you've got your answer for right field or center field for that matter. He's a switch hitter with power and speed. He's got good defense. We've discussed this before. And if he can be a league average bat in the way we've always talked about it with MJ and Kyle Isbell, then he can stay. I will need to see more than just a 3-hit game or a multi-hit game against Tarek Skubal. I will need to see more than that. However, when you've got everybody else struggling, and for a while you weren't getting consistent at bats, now we're starting to see what maybe could happen with those consistent ABs. I mean, the version we saw of Drew Waters yesterday was like the ceiling of Drew Waters. And that's not poking fun at him. I don't believe that's much of a stretch. I mean, you saw all facets of the game. You saw the speed on the triple. You saw the power on the home run. You saw the hit tool on his opposite field single. And you saw the defense out there in right field. It's good. It can work out there, whether it be in right or it be in left and center. I know he's had 2 errors already on the year. Still, is he a better defender than Hunter Renfroe? He is, in my opinion. He's a better defender than Jonathan India in left, and that should be the case because Jonathan India is a second baseman. He's a better defender than Maikel Garcia, which he should be, considering Maikel Garcia is a shortstop, third baseman, and second baseman. I'm not going to completely buy into it yet. A few games isn't going to do it for me to be a permanent replacement. I will say, though, there is no need at this point in time to sit him over other players. And I believe we all know the players I'm talking about here. And I've gotten questions about Mark Canha. Why isn't Mark Canha playing? I believe there's a few reasons. Mark Canha was brought in to be a platoon bat. He's a 36-year-old. It was pretty even on the splits last year for him, but in his career, he's crushed lefties. He just came off the injured list. Mac Quatrero, nor would many managers in baseball have a guy return from the injured list, especially one that's 36 years old, and say, we're going to play every single day. I would imagine that Mark Canha, while he's still getting back into the swing of things, is really only going to play against left-handed pitchers. And then if he continues to crush left-handed pitching and it's more and more of an issue with Hunter Renfroe in right field and Kyle Isbell in center, we could see a bit of a shakeup. I just view Mark Canha right now as a platoon bat, being 36 years old, being someone that came off the injured list. That's his role to me. Drew Waters, though, that's a different story. With the way he's played even over the last few games, you got to take that and run with it. I just said with the fans, you can't take a few games and run with it being your future right fielder or your future center fielder. With the way the offenses look, though, you got to take anything you can get from that outfield. Now, maybe that goes against my point of Mark Canha. Mark Canha's playing well. And if we're talking about production, why screw with it? Mark Canha's hit some right-handed pitchers. He was the reason the Royals found a way to tie the game back up on Sunday against Detroit. Like, why can't he play more? Why can't he DH if he's coming off the injured list and he's a 36-year-old? I can see that logic to it. But if I'm just going off of youth, I'm going off of defense, what they've done of late. I can't stand for Hunter Renfroe starting over Drew Waters. And he wasn't going to tonight. Drew Waters is in the lineup. And I would imagine Waters is going to be in the lineup tomorrow. And I'd be fascinated to know if he'll be in the lineup in game 2, regardless of how he performs. This is the type of prospect, though, the Royals had seen, where he flashes a little bit of everything. It may not last, but what I said yesterday in our episode, the late night episode, was he's got to bridge the gap. And if he does keep a spot and he is their playoff right fielder or center fielder, that's all fine and dandy. The goal right now, though, if you are the Royals, is can we get to the deadline with this type of outfield when teams will be more willing to trade with us? And best case scenario, you do get there and you find a reliable starter in Drew Waters. I'm not going to buy into what he's doing just yet, but I am going to keep an eye on it, and I am rooting for him to be that guy to have a surprise year for the Royals in 2025. Okay, we're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, the A's just called up their top prospect, who they took 2 spots ahead of Jac Caglianone. They played the same position, and he made his Major League debut tonight. Does that factor in at all what the Royals will do with Jac Caglianone, or is it more so about a league-wide thing? We'll give you our thoughts next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. Want to give a shout out to the title sponsor today in Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts, where each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better-for-you unsaturated fats to help you keep you feeling fuller longer. So get snackin' and get crackin' with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more today. And if you're like me, who was stuck out of the ballpark for an extended period of time, I already said this earlier, don't feel bad for me. I was able to sit indoors. I feel bad for those that sat out in the rain and were waiting through that delay. But if you were hungry, and you were going into the stadium and you needed a snack on the way home or on the way to the game, I always love a good bag of Wonderful Pistachios because they keep me feeling fuller longer. For the final segment tonight, and then we'll be bringing you a recap of the doubleheader tomorrow. Not quite sure if it'll be a late episode or right after the Royals wrap up game 2. But for tonight's episode, I want to dive back in the minor league ranks a little bit. I'm trying now to not overload segments with Jac Caglianone talk because I know it can get a little bit stale. But I do feel that it's newsworthy now because Nick Kurtz for the Athletics, can't call them the Oakland Athletics anymore, though I probably will from time to time. He makes his Major League debut tonight. And the Athletics wasted no time in calling him up to the big leagues. And he is somebody that, even out of the draft, was viewed as a guy that was going to be a fast riser. I mean, he had the hit tool, he had the power tool, he had the patience, he had the approach. He had less of a swing and miss problem than Jac Caglianone. And it didn't make him a better prospect. It might have made him a more big league ready prospect than Jac Caglianone. But long term, I feel these guys have pretty equal ceilings, if not, Jac Caglianone having a bit of a higher ceiling. But in terms of being major league ready, Kurtz was somebody that, felt in the top 5, like the sure bet. There were some other guys, Chase Burns as a pitcher going to Cincinnati, Charlie Condon, you had Travis Bazan, like all those guys were great prospects and great picks, in my opinion. But Kurtz, to me, was somebody that if he fell to the Royals, I was going to be thrilled with as well. And tonight, or as I'm doing this this podcast, the Athletics and Rangers are in the 8th inning, and Kurtz tonight was 1 for 4 with an RBI. He did have an RBI single in his first at bat. It's one game. I'm going to be evaluating Kurtz's progression, though, just to see how big league ready he is. Because that's been everybody's question about Jac Caglianone. Could he do any worse than Hunter Renfroe right now? Could he do any worse than MJ? My pick would be probably not. I mean, I feel that with his hit tool, his power, even if he was hitting a $180, he would have 4 or 5 home runs by now. There also is a very big reason as to why the Royals aren't going with that path of, well, he can come up here and hit 180. That's better than Hunter Renfroe. The goal should not be, well, just bring him up here because he can be the solution. He can hit better than 110. The goal for Jac Caglianone should be, we want to polish him as a hitter so that when he is up in the big leagues, everything about his game is not flawless, of course. I don't believe there are very many guys out there in baseball that have a flawless game. The Royals do have one of them, in my opinion, and Bobby Witt Jr., and even then, we nitpick a few things from time to time. With Caglianone, you want to make sure that when he comes up, he's ready. He might go through some early struggles, but it's not 110 bad or 120 bad. That's why they're not going to rush him, right? And I know we've got people that have their own opinions on the comments below of if they believe he'll be up this year or next year. When it comes to Kurtz and when it comes to Caglianone, let me be very clear. Whatever Kurtz does is not going to impact how the Royals handle Caglianone. What I was teasing at before we went to break was that this is now becoming more of a league thing where people just don't let prospects hang around in the minors very long anymore. And for some of them, they don't need to tear it up. Kurtz did. He was in AAA and he had 7 home runs in the first couple weeks of the season. He clearly had proven that that level was not competitive enough for him. They could try it out at the big league level. Being a college bat should progress you a little bit quicker to the minor league ranks. And I view that to be the same thing with Jac Caglianone, who's now had, I want to say, 4 straight games with multiple hits, 4 straight multi-hit games, I should say. Had a little bit of a tongue twister. He's now hitting 300. He's doing what he needs to do. And I like the fact that the Royals started him in Double-A because you can make a very strong case that Double-A is a hell of a lot harder for prospects than Triple-A. We've brought this up before. Triple-A, you'll get some older guys that are trying to hang on, not as talented Triple-A arms. You don't see the top prospects there. You see them in Double-A. Now, for the Athletics, they wanted Kurtz to go to Triple-A so he could be more of a fast-tracking guy. We'll see, though, just how ready he is at the big league level. First at bat tonight, looked pretty comfortable. He also dropped the pop-up in the infield and did get the force out at second, but he tripped over the mound and dropped the ball. I'm not trying to say anything off of that, but, you know, sometimes we buy so much into minor league numbers that we don't truly factor in how hard it is to translate that to the big league level. And in Double-A, in Triple-A, they do have a scouting report on you. Some of those pitchers are not good enough to exploit those weaknesses, which for the Royals and looking at Jac Caglianone, they want to make sure that when he gets to the big leagues, those weaknesses he has, they're not easily exploitable. He's not going to be just torn down at the big league level because they exploit one weakness and he never can adjust to it. You know, in AAA and in Double-A, you're going to face a guy that can't throw strikes or that will leave a meatball down the middle in a 2-0 count. It's not always going to happen in the big leagues. You might get lucky every once in a while, but when I watch Kurtz play and when I saw him in AAA, there were a lot of pitches you're going, that's a AAA pitch, and it's still a very high level. Like, there are very few people in the world that can be pitching in AAA right on the doorstep of the big leagues. It goes to show you how incredibly hard it is. But some of those pitches he was hitting out, and to hit 407 home runs in a few weeks, it's not always going to happen in the big leagues. And when you are a big-name prospect, believe me, going into tonight, even though the Rangers gave up 4 runs, Kumar Rocker did, and Kurtz did get an RBI single in his first at-bat, they've already got a little bit of a book on you. And then when they get more comfortable in facing you, they're going to know what you like and what you don't like. And that's why I get, questions from time to time with Royals players who had one great year and then fall off the next year. Freddie Fermin's a perfect example, our hero of last night. Freddie Fermin was hitting, 300, 330 for a chunk of the season last year. And then all of a sudden, when he started playing more, we saw him go through a brutal stretch. Same thing happened in 2023. And you're going, why is this happening? Shouldn't he feel more comfortable? It's because there's more of a book out on him. there is more information, there's more data, what pitches he can and cannot hit. For Kurtz, you're not going to know what is really the true strengths and weaknesses of his game until there is a big enough sample size to go, that makes sense. For example, if he strikes out on, a curveball in 4 of his first 5 strikeouts. Let's say he strikes out 5 times in the next 5 games, and 4 of them are on a curveball. That's not enough data to go, well, he can't hit a curveball. No, you're going to need like 50 strikeouts, and 35 or 40 of them have been on a curveball. Hell, even more than that. And then you would say he might not be able to hit the curveball. But those small sample size stuff, when you got guys that break into the league and they're hitting well immediately, it's because they don't really know how to get that guy out just yet. And even in the minor leagues, it's not always going to translate. He might be a fastball hitter, but then in the big leagues, when he's getting a healthy dosage of curveballs, he starts crushing them. Okay, maybe he can't hit a big league fastball, or he can't hit a sinker or identify it, or a cutter. It becomes so much more complicated. And so my point of this segment is to say, I'm keeping an eye on Kurtz. It's not to say that if he does well, then the Royals need to fast-track Jac Caglianone, because everybody's going to handle their prospects in their own unique way. If Kurtz goes up and in 10 games, 20 games, he's just torching it, it's still a small sample size, but it would make me start to believe, hey, when Jac Caglianone does come up here, even if there are a few holes, I feel that he's just as good of a prospect, and it's not going to be as big of a learning curve as maybe some people expect out there. If he goes out there and struggles, it goes to show you not that he shouldn't have been called up or that Caglianone can't be ready, but more so that baseball is just an incredibly difficult sport. Okay, that'll do it for another edition of Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. Thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen today. For your second, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale and find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Tomorrow, we're going to recap that doubleheader and preview the series against the Houston Astros. But until then, you take it easy, Kansas City.